Comencem amb aquesta música de fons que ens ha posat el nostre convidat, Tupac Martir. This one's going to be in English, but if at any point, en cualquier momento, you have a question, we can always speak in Spanish because Tupac's from Mexico. So he has perfect Spanish. But this one is going to be in English. So, som-hi de nou, benvinguts, benvingudes. Sé que heu anat a buscar el cafè, el croissant, jo me l'he menjat aquí davant així com a dos carrillos, que es diu, però ja estem bé. Seguim amb la següent sessió d'Euphonic Pro y esta vegada, esta vez, lo hacemos con una persona que cuando se llama Tupac Martir, aplauso para él.
¡Aplauso!
Que es de México, ha vivido en Estados Unidos, en el Reino Unido, ahora mismo está basado en Lisboa, y que cuando lees su currículum, when you read his resume, there are many things that shine. One of them is that he's worked with Beyoncé. The other one, he's worked with Alexander McQueen, so stars from fashion, from pop music, from entertainment in general. But here we are going to forget about the stars that shine in Tupac's resume, and we are going to focus on the star that Tupac is and his work, which is work that it's very much related to technology, and he makes really interesting creative use, even from strange technologies. Now he is a resident at a medical facility in Portugal, and he's working with medical machines to make some of his artistic works. So we're going to go through some of his works, and I'm going to shut up because I know that he wants to start with a text from Eduardo Galeano.
Eduardo is, I'm Mexican, so Eduardo being a Latin writer. I always read his stories. He used to have a thing called Windows on La Jornada every Sunday. And I loved it because it was always like this window that you can actually see all of Latin America through that window. As I was preparing for my first show, for my first opera, back in 2011, I came around to this quote. And I love it because the ethos of the studio, I am the creative director, artist, or founder of Satore, comes from this. The way that we make Nierka comes from this, and the ethos of everything that we do in the studio, this idea that every single thing that we do is there to support the story. So I don't believe that technology is something that you think about later. I think of technology as a character within a piece. So the graphics card that you use, the engine that you use, the computers that you decide to run it on, the iOS system that you're trying to work, all of those things for me are characters that bring something to the story. And that goes through the way that we use lights, costume, puppetry, video, whatever you want to call it. We really believe in this type of thing. So it's like this complete synergistic element that we like to believe in.
It's true. Well, if we were speaking with a painter or with a musician, they would say they will tell the same about a guitar.
Yeah.
It's important. What guitar are you going to use to get a specific sound? So it makes sense that digital technology, you take care of whatever piece that you use in order to get the specific results.
Correct.
So it makes sense.
Yeah. So when we this is a piece that we debuted in 2019 at Venice, and this actually was a complete different view of the things we were trying to do. This is the piece is called Cosmos Within Us, and it's the story about Aiken, a 60-year-old man suffering from Alzheimer's disease, and goes back to a place to try to hold on to his last memories before they get lost. And I'm going to skip the videos because obviously there's going to be we don't have enough time. But I was trying to figure out how we could use normal drawings, how I can integrate them into digital worlds, how I could play with heights and sizes, and all of a sudden you're super small, and then you're super big, and what are the elements that come with this, and then what happens to all this 16:9 content that we have, and is there a way that we can go and shoot 2 pairs of kids without being a pedophile every 3 months and create a relationship between them so that we end up creating this dome of memories where memories of these 2 children are being created? Is there a way that this Wes Anderson, Almodovar type of way of putting a play within a play exists within this space? How do you do it then? Because we're looking at 360, so you can look everywhere. So, we doubled up on dads, we doubled up on mums. We created this entire set where you can actually follow information going around it like you would do in a Wes Anderson film. And it's all about the use of technology of what can I do with that camera? What can I do with facial capture? What can I do with photogrammetry? How can I create new things that are in Houdini that I need to bring into Unreal and then eventually generate something different? But that's just what people are seeing. And that's just what my interactor is looking at. Behind it, there's us doing all the musical is playing live. We're conducting the piece live. We can see what he's seeing. We have people that are doing haptics. So all the touch, taste, smell, it's happening in real time. Our voiceover is in real time. So we're reacting to the interactor. So all of a sudden, this man standing in the middle of the room is not just there for the sake of it. We're all looking at him, and 14 of us are performing for one single person.
The guy with the VR headset?
Yes, the interactor. Yeah, he's technically... So you can see in there's me at the back, there's the string quartet, then there's the girl playing keys, then on the other side there's the person who's running visuals in real time. Behind that is the guy who's running our sound engine in real time. So we run an 11.2 surround sound system with open headphones, which means we can do sounds in the external layer. They can come from there to one ear to the other ear back to there. So I'm able to cross through you with sound, and then we're able to play around with those things. But then the beauty about it is your voiceover is not coming out of those two speakers. The voiceover is speaking to you in your ears. So when he whispers, when you feel the tremor, when you feel the fear, all those elements come here. You're not feeling them from the outside, And then there's the two shadow dancers who do taste, touch, smell, cold, warm, And there's a brilliant moment where you are given by your grandmother a cookie. And you stick your, first she gives you a juice box, and you stick your hand out, and there's a juice box. And you can see people coming in, and they grab the straw, and they taste it, and it is a juice box. And then she comes back again and gives you cookies, and you stick your hand out, and there's a cookie. And you can literally see, even if you don't see this part of it, you can see people their brains are not understanding that they are in a VR piece, and they're having a cookie, and they're having a juice box. And there's nothing, you will never make that combination unless you're a child. And so we know for a fact now, working with Champalimaud, that we're actually creating new maps in people's brains at that moment, because you've been told your entire life that something that is on the screen is untouchable. And so we immediately go and anchor you with this neurolinguistic programming setup to anchor you to that moment of happiness you've created with a bracelet. And then you walk away and you take a bracelet with you. And when you see that bracelet from now on, you will think of that moment in which you were again a child. And so then that generates an entire different type of structure that comes later in your life. So it's a lot of fun. We also broke the model, because everyone says that you can't do VR for a lot of people. So yes, we have one person there, but then we have 350 people watching how this piece is being created. So it's the behind the scenes of the piece. So these people are seeing a theatrical experience. The interactor is seeing a VR experience.
So all these people that are watching, you always get like Tupac is very intense. He says a lot of ideas, very interesting at the same time, and you're a bit like, okay, so tell me again. There's a man on stage with some VR headset, and he's having like the VR experience.
Correct.
He's having an experience that the other people that you were showing,
those guys,
all these guys, they are watching something else.
They're watching. On stage. They're seeing on the big screen what he sees on the headset. All these people also have open headphones.
Yes.
So they listen to what he listens to. They see what he can see, but they get the advantage of seeing how the piece is being made, while the interactor is no idea. He's just involved in the concept.
That's amazing. So you have like two shows at once. You see how the piece is being made, and also in a way you are put in the place of this single person on the stage. This is also the purpose of VR. Like
exactly.
Your body somewhere else in another world.
But a big thing of this was, I started this in 2017, and all this goes into my idea of multi-reality. So I started working multi-realities, and the idea that one single piece seen in different realities can actually generate something completely different. And the expectations that you have and the climax and everything is actually very different depending on the way that you see it.
Wow, that's a lot of things to take in. And Carlos has a question. But wait a minute. Wait a minute. I'm not sure if my is on my microphone. Yes. So
it's an easy question, but how did you rehearse that? I mean, how many options did you have on working a project like that?
We did a proof of concept in April of 2019, just to understand whether or not certain things were working and what things we needed to change. And then prior to Venice, we did a week of rehearsal. Then we did 4 rehearsals in Venice, and then we started playing.
Oh, that's quick.
But I mean, it took us 2 years to make the piece.
Okay.
So throughout that period, I was understanding many things.
Moltes gràcies, Marto. Well, yeah, and let's move on to another piece that we were able to see, to experience last Sonar, which is called Haita.
Yeah. So Haita means river in Huichol. I am Huichol, my dad's Huichol. Haita means river, and that's because we did the entire piece across the river. So I am the artist at Champollion Foundation, which is at the bottom left. We shot some elements at the museum in Mat. Our studio is on the river. We showed it at Sonar, which was by the river, and we mixed it at the next studio, which is also by the river. So the whole idea is we're making a piece that is down the river using all of Tejo. Now, I'm Mexican, which means the river means something completely different. It's exactly where every single migrant crosses over to change paths. And then I started thinking about all the immigration that we have right now and all the people moving around and everything that goes with it and the history that sits behind these migrants. And so I decided to go back to music that comes from that area. So I took canto cardenche, which is a canto that is actually dying. And then I figured that I live in Lisbon, and so I took fado, and then I took canto alentejano, and then I mixed them all together. And then I always do this kind of idea of what is the story going to be about, and I knew I was going to do the story of a migrant. From the moment that he decides to leave, to living his love, and all seen through the eyes of his love, imagining what he's going through. So being on the truck, coming out, running through the desert, swimming through the river, and then eventually dying. Sad story, yes, I know, but a lot of people are going through it at the moment. What makes it very interesting, and when I explained to her, she just looked at me like, are you absolutely off your freaking head? Is I did an MRI scan of the body and the brain of my dancer. And so I grabbed the MRI scan and I used it to, for 2 reasons. One of them is to actually take parts of the MRI scan, because I can actually grab parts of it, and I created particle systems. So the particle systems that I was going to use in the engine all come from parts of her body. The second part of it is by using the movement of the MRI, I can actually create a light. And so I created small videos of that actually become the light that happens inside the engine. And then with that in mind, I then went and took an EG of her brain, so that then her brain is the actual thing that lights her up as we are going to perform this. Then we did a motion capture and a volumetric capture. Then we did a normal capture of her with cameras. And then thinking about all that, I started playing in the engines, and I started creating this 20-minute piece that is completely taken from her. So everything that you see on the projections is made by her body, part of her body, her movement, her motion, and her dancing. So everything that exists in that is made by one single human individual in every single partition of way. And then from there, we started just, playing around. I used the choir. At the beginning, I used the canto cardenche in a way that is not meant to be sung. So usually canto cardenche sang in 4 voices. I sang it, in this case, all by myself. And then we did over layers of it. And then at the end of it, we begin again in a very simple way, but then we join with a choir that the audience doesn't know that is planted. And so all of a sudden, the ending of it happens and everyone's singing around you, and it becomes this really beautiful thing that a lot of people just cry. So here's like a little, we show this at Champollion. We sang it so many times. But yeah, but it's. I mean, you were there many times, and you can just get, you know. And it was amazing to, like, when the first voice comes in, because no one's expecting it. So someone kind of goes, "Does he know the song?" And then someone else gets up. It's like, "Oh my god!" And all of a sudden, everyone comes behind it. And it just becomes this really gospel feel. Like, I mean, when we recorded it, we recorded with 100 singers, so it has this really, really, really big feel to it.
And that brings us to unique.
To unique. To the weird thing that is unique.
Are you ready? Can you keep up with it?
Can you keep up with this? If there's a question about how we did that process, just get ready, because this is going to get even worse. So I've been working in unique since 2013. I was in a really bad place in my life, and I needed to get it out. And so I started waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning and writing from 5:30 to 7:30 in the morning every single day, any thought that came to my head. And I will then edit that thought throughout the day, and then by the end of it, I will grab those thoughts and put them at the end of the week. And then on Sundays, I will edit things at the end of the week and put them somewhere else. And then eventually, I ended up with 120 odd phrases. And then I put them all together, and I finished with 12 chapters of 8 phrases each, right? And this is, some of them, as my friends say, are very emo, some of them are very Leo Carr. So it just kind of balances each other out, you know. So this is the one that took a lot of the pressure of it, you know. No matter how hard I try hide, there will always be a light. But then you have, when I close my eyes, I exist within myself and the universe, and then give me a mirror so I can finally accept that the sad image that I see is that of a lonely divinity. So you can see kind of where my brain was at the moment. So I built that, and I did all the drawings that went with it. And then I did an installation, and then I did a little exhibition, and then I did a little play. And then around 2017, when I was writing Cosmos, I started thinking about how I can write a new AI that will help me make this piece better. So in 2019-ish, I started writing the AI. And so I started feeding the AI all the music that I really liked, to the point that I now have an AI that I can do 8 bars of music. I feed it to the AI. The AI then plays with me until I'm happy with how that sounds. It gives me 32 bars of music as a melody, 32 bars of music as a chord progression. Once I'm happy with those, I can just go and say, now give me guitar, cello, violin. Look, I can ask for any single instrument, and it will spit it out on the other side within 2 minutes with everything that it has. Why is this important? Because then I have my musicians. And so the cool part about it is I give the musicians all the shit music. And once they have their music, I have 24 different hand signs that I created. So I can play with the dynamics of the music. So I can tell somebody, go with an octave. So as they're playing, they do 1 octave, then 1 octave, then 1 octave. And so they're going up and down an octave. So they go up, up, middle, down, down, middle, up. And they do it like that. Or sometimes I do tremolo. Or I can do, you know, forza. Or I can have all these different things in which I communicate with them to then play with the dynamics of the music. But it also means that I can tell them when they need to go down, who's playing when. So I can create all sorts of things. I can tell people to play double speed. I can tell people to play half speed. And this becomes really important because that means every time we perform the music, it will always be completely different. It will be unique. The importance of that is this, because when the music is then taken into the sound desk then spits it out and makes it into shaders that go into every single machine that is on the venue. And this is what it looks like. So all of a sudden, every single piece of music goes into the sound desk. The sound desk sends it to the machines, and then the engine understands it and starts creating completely different shaders that I can control and I can assign to anything that I want. So I can play with volumes, I can play with particles, I can play with color, I can play with intensities. I can play with all those things in real time, which means that the image that you're seeing in the different types of realities means that you're seeing something completely different because of the way that we're performing the piece. Now, what does that mean? It means that as a group, we perform at the back. You can see us somewhere over there. Then we have the interactors that right now we have them all sitting down, but the idea is that eventually they'll be able to move around. We have dancers that are completely motion captured, which are then sending information into the headsets. As you're in the headset, which is our first reality, let's say like that, you can actually interact with the world that you're playing in. The second reality is the people that you see in red, and they have an iPad. So that means they get to see us perform. They get to see the screen, which is actually showing visuals, but they also get to move around the worlds that we've created and interact with those worlds, all of them also being altered by the way that we play the music. And finally, in the theater, you have all the people that are watching just as an audience. So in that single space, you have people as an audience, one reality, people with an iPad, a second reality, people on a headset, a third reality. Then we have another way of reality, which is this is us showing how we can actually control the worlds directly. So not only is the music doing something, but also we have operators that I can cue and I can tell them to do different things. And as they're pressing buttons, they're able to control the different things that are happening around the space. So I have this kind of double-sided manipulation of the world. And the reason for it is because sometimes I want to grab certain elements and I can transform meshes from being a static mesh to being a skeletal mesh without having to worry about it. This, believe it or not, is a very, very difficult thing to do. And the reason why we needed to do this is because then there's the next reality. And the next reality is, and I always say this, if you are at home watching a concert, you always feel like the outsider because you don't get the music and you don't get the vibrancy. Yes, you get the cuts, but that's about it. So what we've created is a place in which when you're at home watching the stream, we have 3 cameras that have augmented reality incorporated into them. And we stream those 3 cameras to you at home, which means you're getting a reality that the people that are actually in the theater could never see. So then there's a premium about being at home and watching the show at home. And then the final reality is what we call the token. And this means that I can actually give you a code, and you can come into the world, no matter where you are in the world, and play in the world in which the people in VR and the people in iPads are, and you can actually interact and move around, and all of it is being controlled by me on stage, wherever I am with the world, with my operators, and the way that we create music. That is unique. So just to kind of give you a quick idea, that's us on stage, all my guys, and I'll just leave it at that running so that they can see what we talk.
Yes, and actually they are making us the sign that we have to
finish.
But we have to finish because we are all the time late, but I think that we have time for a couple of questions. Tiempo para un par de preguntas. Si alguien quiere preguntarle en castellano porque hay alguna cosa en inglés que se ha perdido, aprovechad ahora la oportunidad que tenéis a Tupac aquí para preguntarle.
What you're seeing right now there is the stream that we took out to the world on the 26th of February when we premiered this piece at the BFI.
So, do you have any questions for Tupac? I know. You are completely overwhelmed. Like, what this is. It's very complex, but at the very same time, most of these pieces, or at least the one that I know, it can be like very scalable, like to different scales. Like, for instance, Haita, we did at Sonar Lisboa, which was an installation, which was intervened by Rita, the dancer, couple times a day. And then in Barcelona, it was more like a, I would say, traditional show on stage with the interaction of the choir
and everything else.
blending with the audience and everything else. So
what you see here, for example, is you see the AR layers and the cameras that are happening. Then you see me over there getting excited because I know what's about to come. And so I'm prepping. So I can actually, I play around with the sound and I have control over the woman's voice. And so I can do, and so then I'm talking to the musicians, to the singers there, and I'm giving them instructions of which phrase they need to talk about. And then I'm turning around to, I think I talk to the drummer, and there you go. That's to the bass player, telling him what he has to do. And then I go through that side. It's intense. It's like running a 20K doing this show.
Tupac Martir, you're a visual artist. You're a technologist, or at least a person who works with sophisticated technology, orchestra conductor, musician,
basket weaver,
many things at once.
And also the Sunday roast.
Oh wow, that's a good skill to have. So, since we are like very tight on time today, we will leave it here. Please. A big applause for the Renaissance man, Tupac Martir. And once you're able to digest everything, you can catch him and ask him questions to clarify. Continuem amb el programa d'Eufònic Pro. Segon dia, ens queda poc. Anem malament de temps, però... Yes!